Hi, everybody. Welcome to People Talks. Today, we are interviewing Elena Lanot, co founder of PIPOL, or Pinoys in Pursuit of Learning. I am Richard Lanot, your host for today. I'm also a co founder of PIPOL, and our main thrust as a nonprofit organization is to help promote education in the Philippines with focus on technology. So I know you are all excited, so let us begin this interview. Hi, Elena. How are you?
Hi.
Thanks for joining us in this edition of People Talks. Let us begin this interview by having you introduce yourself, give us a brief background, where are you located, and what type of work or job are you currently doing?
Sure. So as Richard said, my name is Elena Lanot. I'm a co-founder of People. I've been living in the United States for about 7 years now. Before that, I used to live and work in Singapore as well. So matagal-tagal na rin ako na wala sa bansang Pilipinas. Pero umuwi ako halos every year to visit family and also to stay reconnected. So ang trabaho ko dito I'm located in Silicon Valley, California. I'm a senior program manager for a tech company. I manage projects on the infrastructure side. So basically, how our company provides our services and applications is through the infrastructure. So there are many components of the infrastructure that need improvement, that need to be built. And so I'm involved in that type of work.
Oh, thank you. So let us go and ask, the meaty questions. And I'm sure our audience, especially the Filipino youth, would love to hear from you based on your experiences and based on whatever challenges or let's say hindrances you had in your case in you taking up your course in high school. So do you think that a tech related course can truly be an economic equalizer, especially in the Philippines? Like, in other words, how can it help the poor Filipino get out of poverty?
Mm-hmm. I've always believed that education itself is the great equalizer. It's not it. That's why it should be, a right of every Filipino or of every person is to have access to education. So I don't need to defend that point because it's up to you how you use those opportunities and make use of what you learn to build your success, right? But I do think that technology itself plays a part in that role because, or it takes up, I do believe that technology takes a part in being a great equalizer because that is the demand of the future. Sinasabi ko yun kasi ibig sabihin when you go into tech or when you study technology, science and math heavily in order to find ways to apply technology and the concepts of science and math to bring a positive impact in the future, wala namang sinasabi na mayayaman lang yung pwedeng gumawa nun. Pwede rin siyang, yung information to learn about all of that is available actually through technology itself. Technology is what's making that access to the same information available. Learning a programming language, for example, like Python, it doesn't require an expensive school. The resources are the same. So, tingin ko, dun siya nagiging great equalizer, so to speak. Marami na tayong low cost or free learning that's available through the internet, which is again powered by technology. And so as we're building that education through the years, mapapansin mo na you will look back and say, nagmatter ba kung saan akong school na-graduate, kung sa school ako na-graduate na mas mahal or mas kilala versus kung nag-graduate ako sa simpleng paaralan lang pero pareho naman ng pinag-aralan. Syempre, may mga natural advantages yon kung siguro sa mas dekalidad na school ka nag-aral. pero yun nga kung paano mo gagamitin yung first step na ikaw mismo pinasok mo yung field na yun and nagustuhan mo, paano mo gagamitin yung learning na yun para so to speak, makahabol ka. Pero ayoko naman sabihin yun kasi hindi naman talaga siya competition per se. Pero I guess where I'm pointing at is the information and the access to learn is pretty much the same regardless of your economic background. So it's just a matter of choosing it and choosing to do well in it and choosing to use what you learn to build your success.
Yeah. Regarding choice, as you mentioned, how did you decide what to pursue after high school? Did you consciously pick a tech-related course, or thinking that you will eventually want to have a tech-related career?
No, actually. So, nakakatuwa nga niyan. I think at the time that I graduated from college, I actually didn't take up a tech-related course at all. But I guess the fortunate thing is that when I graduated from college, that was around, that was year 2000. So that was the Y2K situation that everybody was facing. And I think tech was starting to boom. So tech itself started booming, I guess, in the 90s. So imagine it would have been 10 years by that time that it's also starting to pick up in the Philippines, in our country. So I happened to just stumble upon that first job of mine. So to give you a background, I actually wanted to be a diplomat or a foreign service officer. That's why I took up economics in college. And the reason for that, because I had this vision that I wanted to be able to somehow work for our government. And at the same time, I want to experience different cultures and meet a lot of people. And, I'd like to think myself as a good, I guess, diplomat nga. Parang medyo, I like being the bridge between issues and people. So after graduating from college, I sought this company at that time called Andersen Consulting. Later, they're known now by the name of Accenture. So I pursued interviews with them, and then I explored it. Ang nagustuhan ko kasi doon yung travel component. But when I entered the company, I didn't know that that the rest will be history, that I will actually leave the path of becoming a diplomat and just stick to it. Natuwa ako because doon na open yung mind ko about the power of technology.
Right.
Doon na open yung mind ko about the possibilities of a simple code to make a difference. Even though we were doing it for business, but you can see, because you that was your first exposure to real life, to the real world. So nakikita mo yung parang yung impact niya ng technology. So yun, I hope I answered that question.
Yeah. So as a follow-up, did you mentioned you really wanted to pursue a course of being a course that would help you become a diplomat someday, right? But eventually, since you landed tech-related career in Accenture, it so happened that was it more of you thinking that, oh, it's okay, whatever I'm doing right now, it pays the bills, or it's quite interesting, and hence I will just stick to it? Or was it was it always lingering that you still wanted to pursue what you really, your original dream or plan, so to speak?
It's the latter. Sorry. Let me just explain.
Right.
I think it's a combination of both. Pero mas malakas talaga yung need, yung economic needs, na parang I couldn't afford to switch careers because then I had to start all over again.
Right.
And at the same time, I liked the feeling of being able to help my family. So talagang iniwan ko na siya, although naglilinger pa rin yon
Right.
from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
I in a way parang I liked what I was doing, but it wasn't my first choice. It
Choice.
wasn't my
Yeah.
first love. So I think in a way that's actually why after being in the tech industry for 20 years, I found a way somehow to have a marriage of my first desire
Right.
and tech, because I've always been about giving back and making positive impact. So
Yeah.
I think that's the reason why I really tried my best um, to start something like this.
Yeah. Yeah. So in other words, the reason why you're advocating other people or the youth to pursue tech related courses is because you know what it gives. As
Yes.
a person, you've experienced it. It may not be your first choice, but since you're reaping the benefits of you working in a tech company, in a tech industry, you would love other people, especially the Filipino youth, to experience what you're experiencing now. Is that
Yes.
kind of what
Yeah.
it
It sums
meant?
it up. I think
It's
you said it well.
mm,
You said it very
mm-hmm,
well. Thank you for summarizing it that way. And I would also like to say too that you can imagine that if I intentionally really wanted to become a computer science graduate or engineering graduate and then pursue this path,
mm-hmm,
I could just imagine what more I could have done if
yeah,
it was intentional.
yeah,
So this happened to be just a series of events that led me to this point. Um, and still I feel fulfilled being in this type of career. So what more if yung tao is mas intentional sila, mas yun talaga yung ginusto nila.
right. So as a follow-up, actually, if you think about it, looking back, what resources you wish you had back then that could have helped you in high school in really picking or deciding what course to take up?
I think
I know
people,
I know it's
as in
sorry, but I know it's different because it's 20 years ago, right? To
mm,
year 2000, or was it 2000? No, I think even before 2000.
1997.
So yeah, 1996
Mm-hmm.
it's a different era. It's a different time back then,
Mm-hmm.
and now. So I'm not sure as to maybe you can explain what limitations you had back then, and what do you think if you put your shoes in the youth right now, would you
Mm-hmm.
think they may have the same challenges or hindrances in helping them really decide what to take up? I mean,
Yes, I
let's say
think so.
let's
I
say
think pareho in
yeah,
terms kasi yung I guess in terms of just being in your teen years, parang feeling ko may similarities of experiences doon regardless of which generation you come from. It's yung your young mind, yung lack of experience obviously. So what I can say to that is yung feeling ko na sana mas meron noon is yung access to experienced people as in tao, not
right.
people, yung
Mm-hmm.
experience of people in their respective fields, and
Mm-hmm.
um, having an opportunity to talk to them and alamin talaga, let's say,
Yeah,
if I have a short list of 3 things, to have a sit down with that person and
right.
actually like talk about it with them. So pag iniisip mo, pwede naman din talaga gawin yun noon, right?
Right.
Because I mean, you just have to seek it to para gawin yun.
Yeah,
Iba lang kasi yung panahon ngayon where I guess mas madali to access that information. You don't
yeah,
have to actually know someone.
yeah,
You just need to know of someone and
right.
try to research them on the internet.
Yeah, yeah,
Kung ano talaga yung tingin nila, or even connect to them through social media. to try to tap them and ask them questions. I mean, who would not try to help a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old, right? When they ask you, when you get asked by them, who wouldn't try to help them? And again, that is just made possible because of the advances in technology.
Right. Right.
So that's one, is yung interaction with the experienced people. I guess yung second is kind of a given as well, which is yung we have very rich information in the internet about all these different types of careers.
Right.
Wala yun noon. I mean, may internet noon, pero yung content must be very limited. Yun. So I think those are the two things that I would have liked to have in my time.
Yeah. It makes sense because back then I could also relate to what you're saying, that we just didn't have any idea as to how we could tap certain resources. Like I'm thinking of what you're saying as a sort of, you're looking for a mentor of some sort, right? Somebody who can advise you as to what to pick for college or university, or what kind of, what are the pitfalls to look out for, and share their experiences. I think in our cases, in high school, there were resources, but I would say not as compared to now, right? Because back then you have to rely on your teachers to provide you information on your family, on your relatives. But here you can independently look for resources online, right? I mean, but do you think, as a follow-up, do you think that people back then and compared to now, are the resources that you seek for, like mentors, are they more abundant now, or is it about the same? Like, it doesn't really matter what kind of vehicle or vessel you use in finding them. What really matters is, are there enough people willing to give their time to mentor people? You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
I get what you mean. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I did say earlier that who wouldn't want to help a 16-year-old if that 16-year-old asks you for advice.
Right.
For myself lang. I don't really know. I mean,
it's hard to say, right?
It's hard to say. Kasi even in our careers right now, right? Hindi naman madaling mag-tap or makakilala din ng mentor even in the workplace. It's not. I mean, first of all, you really have to be very bold to do it, and and be very clear as well, because ayaw mo naman i-waste yung time ng chosen mentor mo. And then yung mentor mo, most probably, the people that you will be exposed to, or the people you tend to look up to, are already up there, and they may already have busy schedules. So hindi rin practical for them to spend time with you. I have my own experience in that area, by the way, but not to digress from the conversation. Pero that's a good piece of thought, I guess, is to consider nga naman na nasa tao pa rin talaga kung gusto ko nilang tulungan. Pero nasa sayo din kasi to ask. So, at saka maganda naman din sa mga kabataan ngayon, sa observation ko, working with the high school students where we had our first speaker series event, ang napansin ko sa kanila, they can actually speak well for themselves. Ewan ko, pero nung generation ko, or generation natin, medyo, kasi diba tayo yung generation na takot sumabat sa usapang matatanda. So, hindi tayo masyadong na-train para kumausap ng matanda. So, I think yun naman yung kinaganda ng generation ngayon, is they can freely, I guess that's the right word, they can freely talk to their elders.
Yeah, thanks for that. I know the major thrust of PIPOL is education, right? So why do you think, yeah, and you touched this already in your first few statements. Why do you think that education is important, and how do you relate it to the Philippines, especially the poor Filipino youth, the poor Filipino students? Is it as important as basic necessities? Would you think that? Would you compare that? For a poor family and having your children, what do you think? Will they strive for their kids to have to go to school, or will they find money to just put food on their tables? I guess you're put in a bad in a bad situation or a bad dilemma wherein you really want both, but in this case, in the Philippine context, how do you kind of balance that out, or how do you really push that, I guess, that endeavor to have to really for the Filipino family, or for at least a Filipino youth, to really pursue education?
So I think sa kahit anong parte ng buhay, talagang kailangan mo ng balanse. So you need to balance your short-term goals and your long-term goals parate. Kailangan meron kang long view of things. Nagkataon sa Pilipinas, yung mga mahihirap, wala silang pwedeng panahon o lakas o materyales or resources para mag-isip pa beyond tomorrow, or ano bang, kasi yung mga mahihirap sa atin, syempre iisipin nila, paano ako makaka-survive sa araw na to, o bukas, o sa makalawa, o sa isang linggo, o sa isang buwan. Siguro isang buwan. Alam mo yun na yung pinaka. Lalo na ngayon sa panahon ng COVID-19. So, pero kasi pag yun lang yung iniisip mo naman, nawawala ngayon yung lente mo para isipin kung ano yung future. Nagkataon, ang kabataan, na nakasalalay tayo kasi ngayon sa mga kabataan, nakasalalay tayo sa kanila para sila yung magtayo at mag-improve sa nakaraan ng Pilipinas. To build the nation. Sila na yung susunod na makikinabang, at yung mga susunod sa henerasyon pa nila yung makikinabang sa gagawin nila ngayon. Kasi panahon na nila ngayon Panahon nila ngayon para umangat, para ayusin at para ayusin at pagtibayin yung mga magagandang bagay na itayo na, at para magtayo pa ng mas bagong mga paraan para umangat pa yung kalagayan ng Pilipinas. So, kung naiintindihan naman ng lahat na pag mahirap ka, hindi mo maiisip na yon, kasi iniisip mo na lang yung sarili mo nga. Paano ka mabubuhay bukas? Ganun. Ang siguro, kaya nga sinasabi ko kanina na education is a right. In that sense ako nag-agree na aside from the basic necessities, dapat education then is to be considered a right, just like any other necessities. Kasi kapag hindi nakapag-aral yung mga tao mo, ano mangyayari sa bansa mo, 'di ba? Ayaw natin bumalik sa panahon na ginawa tayong mangmang ng mga taong or ng mga bansang sumakop sa atin, 'di ba? Ayaw natin bumalik sa panahong 'yon. Kaya nga natin sineselebrate yung kalayaan natin, kasi alam natin na hindi 'yon yung para sa atin, at hindi tama 'yon. So ganun yung perspective ko doon Parang as much as ang reality says na hindi mo pwedeng maisip yung future mo kung wala ka ng basic necessities. True. Pero tingin ko, nasa trabaho ng gobyerno at siguro nating mga mamamayan na mas merong kaya na pagsikapan na ang education maging basic rights talaga siya, na ibigay talaga siya sa mga tao. Yung binigay sa atin na gift or pinamana ng American government sa atin, yung public school system. Matutuwa ba tayo ngayon sa state ng public school system natin na nagagawa ba natin talaga ng sa magandang paraan yung education for yung free education para sa mga kabataan? Masasabi ba natin na pareho yung kalidad nun sa kalidad ng isang pribadong institusyon na binabayaran? So, yun yung dun talaga medyo passionate ako about that. Kaya sa maliit lang na paraan sana, kung kaya ng people, kung kakayanin ng organisasyon natin at marami pang organisasyon na alam kong tumutulong, kung kakayanin pa, paano natin i-close yung gap na yun?
Yeah. And related to that question on, education versus basic necessities, it all boils back to, poverty as in general, right? So, in relation to that, what do you advise the Filipino youth, especially the poor Filipino youth who have no dreams or no goals in life, not to their fault, not to their own fault, but, they may think that there's no future in the Philippines because they're extremely poor. And with the current state of the government, they're not getting enough help or opportunities. What do you advise them, them not having hope in pursuing their dreams or going to school again, because they're thinking, what could this give me? I'd rather just work as a child, or I'd rather work now and not pursue education. And in the other side of it, if for people who are fortunate enough to be able to have education, you advise them to find greener pastures outside of the Philippines. In your case, you're not in the Philippines, you went out, and you may expound on that, why, how was that the case? But would you also advise them, if that's the only way out to really go out of poverty in the Philippines?
Yeah, so parang twofold yung tanong mo, no?
Yeah.
Yung dun muna ako sa pangalawang tanong. Yung pangingibang bansa kasi talagang pangangailangan siya ngayon. Yun din yung nangyari sa akin eh. Both for economical reasons but also for personal reasons, na tingin ko kasi meron akong matututunan sa labas ng bansa na pwede kong ibalik sa loob ng bansa. I guess ganun na lang yung parang tingin kong magiging, kung may nakikinig man sa akin or kung tatatakman to sa kanila, yun na lang yung sasabihin ko, na kung mangingibang bansa kayo, kasi kailangan ng pamilya, di ba? O kailangan ninyo. Wag lang kalimutan siguro yung pagmamahal sa Pilipinas, na pwede iisipin nyo parati na lang kung paano kayo makakatulong. Hindi naman masyado more on financially, Siyempre nandun na yon, yung pag-remit, yung pagsuporta sa pamilya. Pero yung ano din, yung matututunan mo, kasi yung matututunan mo kung nasaan ka man, hindi mo siya matututunan sa Pilipinas. So ang knowledge kasi, 'di ba, sabi nga nila, once you gain that knowledge or education, it can never be taken away from you. So ganun siya ka-precious. Sa'yo yun eh. Experience mo yun, knowledge mo yun. Ang maganda naman sa ganun, libre din siya. So pwede mo siya talaga ipasa sa Pilipinas o sa mga nangangailangan. So yun yung pinaka-advice ko dun sa second mong tanong. Dun sa unang mong tanong, to be honest, parang hindi ako yung best person na pwedeng mag-advise nun, kasi hindi naman ako talaga nanggaling necessarily sa kahirapan. So hindi ko ever malalagay yung sarili ko sa shoes ng isang tao na nawalan na ng pag-asa dahil sa kahirapan. Pero siguro ang masasabi ko lang is, lahat naman kasi tayo meron tayong purpose. Meron tayong mission dito sa buhay. Kung pero yung unang or siguro medyo broad to na advice, pero pwedeng totoo kasi siya is siguro unang wag mong gagawin is mawalan ng pag-asa eh. Kasi yun na mismo eh, yung pag-asa mismo yung uudyok sa'yo para gumawa ng susunod pa na gagawin, 'di ba? Kasi kung wala ka ng pag-asa, wala na, game over na. Hindi mo na, wala na yun. Parang tapos na ang laban, 'di ba? Pero yung kung meron kang pag-asa, yun yung mag-uudyok sa'yo para gumawa ng paraan para magtrabaho ka na or magsumikap ka na makawala doon sa kinalalagyan mong sitwasyon. So, mahirap man sabihin kasi nga hindi pareho ang naranasan ko sa kung sino mang nakikinig dito na nakaranas pa ng mas matindi. Hindi tayo pareho ng sitwasyon. Pero sa unang sa parang tingin ko talaga wag kang mawalan ng pag-asa, yun yung una. Tapos siguro pangalawa na lang na advice doon sa tanong na yon is at the very least kung wala ka talagang pangarap sa buhay, kung wala ka talagang desire sa buhay, at the very least aim to be a good person and a good Filipino citizen and hindi ka maging pabigat sa mga tao na nasa paligid mo pagtanda mo. So at least yun man lang, isipin mo na lang yun.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks again for all these wonderful insights. We're going to our last questions, and let's say you're able to convince the youth to some of the Filipino youth to take up tech-related courses. Can you give or paint them a picture? Like, what is challenging about having a tech career, and what makes it fulfilling? To kind of inspire them. Is it really inspiring, or is it really something that they should all be motivated to take up, or is it all about just money? Are we just basically advocating this and telling, oh, go ahead and take up tech related course because this is where the money is? Is it more to that effect, or is it something else?
No, I'm actually not advising people to take up technology because of the money. But
Right.
I agree, the money is there. Kasi nga, sabi ko, in a way, the money follows the trend or the future, right? And the future is in technology. So yes, money happens to be there. But I don't want to sound like other people out there who have advised the younger generations before to, hey, study nursing because the money is there, right? I would always advise the youth to try to figure out what they really want. It can be STEM, it can be another, hindi ko naman pinipilit na maging STEM necessarily, right? So kailangan din talaga gusto nila. Ang masasabi ko lang, so speaking from experience, having been in this field for a number of years, is yung challenging sa kanya actually is yung keeping up with it, right? Because technology changes a lot. But at the same time, what's fulfilling about it is that you don't necessarily waste your skills kasi you can leverage from what you learned before. So there's just a consistent path to grow. Precisely because nag-advance ng technology, and maraming industries na nangangailangan nun. So, whether it's the health industry, or medical, pharmaceutical industries, banking industries, kahit ano pa yan, kahit small business pa yan, merong silang reliance upon technology. So, yung fulfilling part dun is being part of the teams or the products that you build in powering those businesses. So yun yung fulfilling part doon. I think yung pinaka-challenging lang is yung how do you constantly upgrade yourself, or how do you keep up with the latest technology, and also even from the very beginning, how do you even choose which type of technology you study? Kasi marami ding areas yan, di ba? There's just computer science is one thing, or programming is one thing, But there are also other things. There's networking, there's computer hardware, there's data centers, infrastructure. That's even with programming itself. Ang dami rin. May databases, merong, some applications, merong, sa applications, marami din. So, yun nga medyo, kaya din siya maganda siguro in a way kasi even though you've chosen one piece of it, you can traverse. Pwede kang mag-move laterally kasi may marami namang parts doon that are transferable.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Elena. We appreciate your time and for you giving us these wonderful insights.
Happy to share.
Last segment, I guess, so to speak, and for this People Talk is just, for you to give any parting words, especially to our audience, and perhaps even promote, what are the initiatives that People is currently undertaking, so that the audience and the viewers will know and possibly find, or be guided as to how they could help the organization as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for that question or that request. There are a few projects that People is working on. So the first one is that we actually want to produce our own content when it comes to educating our youth about specific technology-related subjects. We actually heard from a particular teacher coming from a particular school about this specific need because we learned that they actually don't have a lot of ICT teachers. That's one problem to begin with, but also the materials that they are using to teach people are not really fit for remote distance learning. So that's one of the projects that we want to undertake. And second of all, we want to continue this process of giving students access to information like this, or to people to more experienced people in the industry, so that they will pick up lessons or insights or even inspiration on how they want to build their own careers as well. So those are the two main projects. We also have an ongoing laptop drive. It's really an experimentation as to how well we can execute on it. We know there's a need, so we're trying to step in as well in that area to help. So those are the three projects of People. The parting words that I want to say have something to do with, I guess, just making people understand who we are in People. So we went to this to create a non-profit org because we want to help our country and we want to help the Philippines. But there's a lot of unknowns that we encounter in doing this. We have a lot of lessons to learn. We are not experts per se in education or in the field of teaching students. We are not in that area. We're not claiming to be. Pero alam mo, gusto ko i-share yung natutunan ko recently from a podcast that I was listening to. Sabi niya doon, the mission of nonprofits should be to get out of business, because that means that when you're out of business, that means that you would have solved the problem, right? Yeah. And then he also said that nonprofits are mostly experimentation. Kasi kaya nga nakikreate yung mga ganito kasi hindi siya for profit. Kasi kung alam na natin kung paano i-solve yun, might as well make it a for-profit solution, right? Pero yung journey natin na we might do things that might fail, that's very natural for nonprofits to experience, because precisely we are trying to tackle problems in ways that may not have been done before. So, yun yung gusto ko lang i-impart. Kasi meron syempre parang minsan may false sense of how do you say this, expectations of the nonprofits na, oh, like I donated such and such money to this organization, but how come nothing is happening, right? So I think, in PIPOL, Richard and I, and as well as our co-founders and our co-officers, they know that we are so big on being transparent on what we do, and so we will continue that. But I hope that things will get solved overnight. But I think this is a long-term thing. It's a long-term journey,
Yeah.
and I just really would like to thank those people who have been helping us so far, and who are also committed to helping us in the future. Thank you for that. Thank you in advance, and thank you for those who have helped.
Yeah. Again, thank you, Elena, for your time and for sharing your thoughts, your experiences, and your insights. Hopefully, we get to have more of these in the future. But as of now, we want to thank you and have a good night and take care and thank you. So
Thank
for all
you.
of you who have viewed and just if you want to know more about People, go to our People website. It's people.org, or you can search people.org also in Facebook. Follow us on Facebook to learn more about our initiatives and to learn more about what we do. Thanks again, and have a good day. Have a good night. Take care, everyone. Bye.